Some polls seem to suggest that an increasing number of black men are moving toward Donald Trump. And my question is simply why? Do they really understand what Trump supports? How anti-black his policies are? That's what I want to talk about in this video. Stay with me. Hello, everybody. I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. And each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some story trending regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy this unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, and I certainly hope it does, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell. So we want to talk about whether or not the black men who support Donald Trump really understand what they are supporting. I'm not sure that they do. And I want to make sure that if they watch this video, they understand exactly what Trump supports and how anti-black he really is. One of the most anti-black presidents in my lifetime. And it baffles me why black men, in particular, are moving toward Donald Trump, assuming that the polls are true. Seems to suggest that some are moving in that direction. So that's what I want to talk about. But before I get into that, please go to Amazon, grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in a public school, you really need this book. If your son is not reading at grade level, go ahead and register him in our BARS program. It is a summer reading program that is designed to help you help your son get his reading level up to grade level. Statistics tell us that young black men in public schools are not reading at grade level as they should. That is a problem, and we want to try to help that problem. Hey everyone, I am attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Recently, I took a look at our analytics and I noticed something shocking. Many of you watch our videos and I believe you enjoy them, but you haven't subscribed yet. What are you waiting for? Again, I was shocked because I know our content is empowering and informative. Plus, our 2024 goal is to have 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Please help us by hitting that subscribe button, especially you young folks. We particularly want to increase our number of young subscribers. Thanks for all your continued support. We appreciate it very much. All right, so with all of that said, again, do black male Trump supporters fully understand what Trump supports and how deeply anti-black the man is and has been all his life? Forget the fact that he was very popular in the 90s on a lot of rap videos. Forget the fact that he is friends with some rappers and some other black entertainers. Forget all of that. I'm talking about the policies that this man has put forth long before he even became president. So, I want to school and educate some brothers today through this video on who exactly it is that they are supporting. If you have black men like that in your family, maybe you can let them watch this video and maybe they will learn some things about who they're supporting. All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to go to another screen as always, and we're going to talk about this. Do black men who support Trump know they are supporting anti-black policies? So I start out by saying, why do blacks support Trump? Black men and women, mostly men. I believe it's for three reasons. And I use the acronym IRE, right? That means sort of irritation, right? It irritates me. So I'm using that acronym. All right. I stands for ignorance. Now, I'm not trying to insult anybody. There are many, many things that I'm ignorant of. Ignorance just means you don't know something. I am ignorant of how this computer works that's in front of me. That doesn't make me a bad person. That doesn't make me a dumb person. That doesn't make me a stupid person. I just don't know everything. So for some black men, it's just flat out ignorance. They simply don't know. The R stands for religion. There are some men who are committed Christians, and they believe certain things about certain cultural issues that just will not allow them to support a Democrat for president. And so they tend to gravitate toward the Republican Party and toward men like Trump, despite the fact that Trump is a white supremacist. So for sincerely, deeply held religious reasons, some black men support Donald Trump. Third reason is economics. Now, I'm not talking about these men who say, well, when Trump was in office, I got a check. I'm not talking about that. Okay, that doesn't make any sense, right? You certainly wouldn't vote for someone who's anti-black because you got an $800 or $1,200 check. That really literally makes no sense at all. No, I'm talking about people like Byron Donalds, Tim Scott, Ben Carson, and others like them who are literally profiting supporting Trump. Literally. All right. They have been very much rewarded for offering their support and trying to get you to support him. I'm talking about those men and their economic rewards for supporting Donald Trump and MAGA and this white supremacist agenda that I'm getting ready to walk you through. All right. So ignorance, religion, and economics, I believe, are the three main reasons why black men support Donald Trump. I want to talk about the ignorance part of it. All right, let's get into that. If you are ignorant of Trump's anti-black policies, I made a list. Now, once again, ignorance just means you are not informed about his policies. I'm not calling you stupid. I'm not calling you dumb, anything like that. I'm just saying you may simply not know what Trump's policies are. And I'm going to give you a list of 20, and I'm going to run through them pretty quickly. So first, Donald Trump is a white supremacist. What does that mean? That means that he believes that white people are superior to black people, and therefore white people should be in control or should dominate blacks and people of color generally. We know that because of the things that he has said and the things that he has done. I have looked back over Trump's history since the 70s, and I can show you lawsuits where he has been sued for racial discrimination, which again confirms his white supremacy. In the 70s, he wouldn't rent his apartments to African-American people. The evidence is pretty strong about that, so that's not really debatable. And then there have been a whole bunch of things that he has said and done, again, that shows that he is a white supremacist. He was elected because he was in opposition to Barack Obama. And so Donald Trump is their solution and answer to hold on to white power and white supremacy. So he's not for you. I don't care how much he smiles. I don't care how much he grins. I don't care what he says. He is trying to get back in that office to finish the job that he did when he was in office the first time, again, in an effort to protect white supremacy. So first of all, just know you are supporting Donald Trump, who's a white supremacist, and all those white supremacists who are around him. You're supporting that whole movement, that whole agenda. All of those people, not just Trump, but MAGA, Project 2025, they're all together and they're all united, again, to protect and preserve white supremacy. They're not there for you, black man and black woman. All right, so first of all, you're supporting white supremacy, okay? Fascism. Now, if you don't know what fascism is, I just did a video on fascism. Go and make sure you watch that video. One of the things that I say about fascism is it is really bad for minorities. It is really bad for the weak and the vulnerable in a fascist system, because a part of fascism is nationalism. And in this country, that would be white nationalism. And white nationalists do not like black people. White supremacists do not like black people. So this fascist government that Trump is trying to establish with the help of others, that will not be good for us. So brothers, you need to understand that you are supporting fascism, and you as a black man, you will not do well under a fascist government. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you information here. You're also supporting Project 2025. I have done multiple videos on Project 2025, and I have shown in those videos how anti-black Project 2025 is. Now, Donald Trump has said, I don't know anything about Project 2025. I don't know the people behind it, and I have nothing to do with Project 2025. Well, he's lying. Because many of the people who wrote the mandate for leadership, which lays out Project 2025's policies, many which are anti-black policies, was written by former Trump officials, including Ben Carson, Christopher Miller, and others. Some are even directors of Project 2025. And again, I've shown in many videos how anti-black Project 2025 is. So black man, black woman, if you're a Trump supporter, you are helping them implement white supremacy, fascism, and Project 2025. Is that really what you want to do? All right, let's keep going through this list. Anti-affirmative action. So we know the U.S. Supreme Court has done away with affirmative action. Although affirmative action helped a lot of African American people, they were able to convince the court, nevertheless, that affirmative action was basically reverse discrimination. Do you want to really support the party that got rid of affirmative action, which was simply a program to try to lift up African Americans? Do you want to be a part of the party, the white supremacist party, the fascist party, the Project 2025 party that got rid of affirmative action? Why would you do that? Affirmative action was in place for you and me as African Americans. Why would you join hands with, and get shoulder to shoulder with the people who gutted affirmative action? Again, that's why I think that there is some lack of knowledge here, to put it in a better way than saying ignorance. All right, let's go back. I got much more. Donald Trump want to give police officers prosecutorial immunity. Now, let me explain that. If a police officer breaks the law, let's say he shoots and kills someone, an African American, who was unarmed, who was innocent, and the police officer was not justified, well, then he should be prosecuted. But Trump wants to give them prosecutorial immunity, which means they couldn't be prosecuted even if they broke the law. So Trump is trying to do for police officers what the United States Supreme Court did for him, put them above the law. Now, who do you think that's bad for? That's bad for us African Americans, because we are 5 times more likely to be killed by police officers than any other group of people in this country. So that means if you give police officers prosecutorial immunity, they will become even more dangerous and deadly in the African American community, because they're above the law. They know nothing is going to happen to them. I mean, they pretty much know that already, because it's hard to get a police officer indicted, and certainly hard to find a police officer guilty of killing, especially African American people. So do you really, really, really want to be in support of a party that wants to give police officers prosecutorial immunity so that they can feel emboldened to kill more black people? Really? And it may not even be about killing black people, but arresting black people based on trumped up charges, stopping black people disproportionately, racially profiling black people, all kinds of things police officers do to victimize African American people. I know I'm an attorney. I am a criminal defense lawyer. I am a civil rights attorney. We represent people who are victimized by police officers. Giving them prosecutorial immunity is a horrible idea. Horrible. They already have immunity, qualified immunity in civil court. So yes, if they kill somebody or, break the law in arresting someone, it's hard to even hold them accountable in civil court. So again, do you really, really want to support a party that wants to put police officers above the law, thus empowering them to be even more dangerous in our communities? You got to think about that real hard. Prosecutorial immunity for police, anti-environmental justice. These folks hate the EPA. One aspect of Project 2025 is to get rid of the EPA or to so weaken it that it can't do anything. And we, African Americans, we would suffer the most if there is more environmental injustice in our community. Just think about it. When they build landfills, when they build corporations that emit dangerous chemicals in the air, where do they typically put those corporations? Where do they typically put those landfills? Where do they typically put all the garbage and all the bad stuff that gets into our air, into our water? They typically put them in the African American community. Just think about Flint, Michigan, for example. This party, the Republican Party, the GOP, Trump, MAGA, Project 2025, wants again to get rid of EPA so that there is virtually no regulation, none, forbidding or prohibiting corporations from just putting all that garbage in our communities so they can make more money, more profits. Again, do you really want to support a party who is anti-environmental justice? Think about this. Maybe you didn't know this. Think about this. Anti-$15 minimum wage. Trump opposes raising minimum wage to $15. Now, in many states, it's already $15, but he is on the record as being in opposition to that. And that's because, again, he is someone who supports and backs corporations and who believes corporations should get richer. So I just don't see why any African American would support a man, a president, who is in opposition to raising minimum wage at least to $15. All right, there's more. There's a lot more. Anti-safe workspace. Now, there's a federal agency called OSHA that has the responsibility of making sure workspaces are safe to work in. Now, what Trump supports is getting rid of federal agencies like OSHA because, again, of the regulation. He wants his corporate buddies to be able to make lots of profit without a bunch of regulations. And the U.S. Supreme Court just gave him a case, the Chevron case, that enables him to fire a bunch of people in these federal agencies, to put his cronies in those federal agencies. And what is that going to do? That's going to make the workplace for a whole lot of African American people less safe. You got to ask yourself, is this really the party that I want to support? And by the way, not only is he anti-safe workplace, he is also anti-union. Unions are really, really, really important in this country because unions fight for the rights of working men and women. Trump opposes that. He sees that as an issue. He sees unions as standing in the way, once again, of corporate profits. Do you want to be that guy? That black man who is supporting those kinds of anti-black policies that will impact perhaps even you directly? Because you got a check during Trump's presidential administration, or because, and I hear this a lot, because of inflation? Is it worth supporting him because you're paying a little more for milk, a little more for eggs, etc.? I get that. I understand that. When I go and get groceries and bring back less bags than I'm accustomed to, I feel the pinch. But that is no reason for me. I'm not going to vote for Trump because of that. Absolutely not. I'll just pay a little bit more than to support a white supremacist and a fascist. No, I'm not going to do that because I'm paying a little bit more for milk and eggs and groceries and so forth. All right. Anti-diversity. Do you want to be supportive of the party that is against a diverse workspace or a diverse school? Do you really want to be supportive of that? Because anti-diversity means they favor an all-white workplace or an all-white school. They don't want diversity. They don't want you there. Of course, Trump's not going to get on the camera and say these things, but these are the policies that he and the people around him support. They are anti-diversity. They are also anti-affordable medical insurance. One of the things that Trump tried his best to do when he was president was to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, commonly called Obamacare. And he's still going to do it if he's reelected. Now, the problem for the African American community is roughly 4 million African American people are covered under Obamacare. So do you want to support a man who is anti-affordable health care, who wants to get rid of Obamacare? Who knows? Maybe even your insurance comes under Obamacare. I mean, do you really want to support a man who doesn't want people to have affordable health care because of his dislike or hatred toward Obama? And that's a whole nother thing. Do you want to support a person who hates Obama because Obama was the first black president? I mean, why would you support such a person? I don't understand that. Why you as a black person would support a person who hated the fact that this country finally elected and reelected a black man. That tells you right there he is anti-black. Why would black people support an anti-black man? Why would black people support an anti-black person? That just doesn't connect, right? Okay. Anti-child tax credit. Huge, really big. A lot of black people were able to come out of poverty under the Biden administration because of the child tax credit. It's a deduction that you can do when you're doing your taxes based on how many children you have. And that was able to put money in the pockets of a whole lot of African American families. Trump is against that. Project 2025 is against that. Think about this. I mean, is this the person that you really want to support? Anti-equity. How can anyone be anti-equity? Equity just means giving people a level playing field. It just means being fair. It is simply equality without the racial barriers and hindrances that we deal with. What is wrong with that? Why is Project 2025, Trump, MAGA, why are they so up in arms about equity? Well, I told you why in the beginning. They're white supremacists, and they're trying to protect white supremacy. And they feel like the more diversity, the more equity, the more inclusion, another word we're going to look at here in just a second, the more they lose out. They feel like when a black person is in a position, in a job, at school or something, it took away from white guys. Do you really want to be a black man who is supporting a crowd of people that is against diversity in your workspace, that is against diversity at your school? I mean, really, is that really what you want to support? Because that is a direct attack on your blackness, on you as a black person, on your children, grandchildren, your family. I just don't think a whole lot of black Trump supporters fully understand what Trump is all about. He and those around him are extremely anti-black. All right, anti-inclusion. I talked about that. Again, simply means that they don't want blacks to be included on the job, in schools, etc. So they fight what is commonly called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do you want to support a party that is against, again, diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, that's what Trump is all about, and those that are around him. There's more. Anti-fair housing. They're all against fair housing. I just did a video on how important fair housing really is and how bad housing discrimination is for African American people. And that is what Project 2025 will produce more of. More housing discrimination and less fair housing, which could very well mean you could go somewhere, try to rent an apartment, try to buy a house, and many other ways that we deal with housing discrimination and become the victim of policies that you voted for. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You could be victimized by policies that you supported by voting for Donald Trump. I just want to make sure you understand what it is you're really doing by supporting this man. He is against black voting rights. I mean, that is undebatable. The GOP gutted the Voting Rights Act, put in place a bunch of laws to hinder our ability to vote freely. And why did they do that? Goes back to Barack Obama. They said when Obama was elected and then reelected, they said, we got to stop this. This Voting Rights Act is going to put us out of business. This Voting Rights Act is giving the country away. We got to stop this. So they gutted the Voting Rights Act. In other words, they don't want you and me voting. They don't want us casting our votes because they know how important voting is. Now, you got these YouTube channels, these black YouTube channels telling you that you shouldn't vote, that voting doesn't matter, that voting the couch is a smart move. I pray you're not listening to that stupidity. I pray that you're not listening to that. The very fact, hopefully, that you're watching this video is that you don't listen to that junk. That's pure junk. Those people may even be working for Trump and the GOP to tell black people who sacrifice so much to get the right to vote, to then turn around and tell black people not to vote is asinine. It is stupidity to the max. To the max. So Trump doesn't want you voting. And unfortunately, a whole lot of black YouTubers don't want you voting either. So they got that in common. That should tell you something about them. Anti-civil rights. I did a video on disparate impact. Go watch that video. But this crowd that you support, if you're a Trump supporter, are anti-civil rights. They are against you having certain civil rights. You, black man. They are against you having certain rights because they believe that the more rights you have, the less rights they have. And that is who you're going to support. You're going to support the group that want to take rights away from you? Really? You're going to support policies that could very well victimize you and your family, your children, etc.? Anti-George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. We all saw George Floyd get lynched in the streets, calling for his mother. And after that, there were marches and protests all over the country to change the laws about policing. And you remember what I said earlier, Trump wants to give police officers immunity from prosecution. So Derek Chauvin, the man who used his knee on the neck of George Floyd, would have never gotten prosecuted for that had Trump had his way. And you want to support that? You want to support the man who would say to the police officer that put his knee on your neck, caused your death or a loved one? You want to support the man who doesn't believe that that police officer should be held accountable? Really? Unbelievable. But I think that you probably didn't know some of this. And that's why I'm making this video, to inform you. So the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act need to be passed. It needs to be enacted. And the only reason it's not is because Donald Trump and the GOP have opposed it and will not allow it to be passed. And it's really important because then we can reform policing in a way that could make things just a little more safer for you and me as black people. But not only the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, but also the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act also has a lot of opposition from Trump and the GOP. And that piece of legislation is important in trying to reform voting rights because, as I explained earlier, they have chipped away at our right to vote. And they're going to continue to chip away at our right to vote, especially when you have 6 conservatives on the court. So why would you support a group of people who's trying to take away our right to vote, black man and black woman? It would be unthinkable just 30 years ago, probably 20 years ago, certainly 50 years, 100 years ago. Our ancestors would think you had lost your mind if you were supporting such people. But there's more. They push this so-called meritocracy, but it's a sham. This meritocracy doctrine says everybody should work for what they get. Now, I believe in that. You believe in that. But they are not the people to try to cram meritocracy down our throats. Why do I say that? Because they enslaved us for 230 years. That's how they got a lot of their wealth. Then they segregated us with Jim Crow apartheid laws, which resulted in us continuing to work for them through sharecropping, convict leasing, etc. That's how they got more wealth. So the point is, and now we're dealing with systemic racism, the wealth that white America has, they didn't earn it. They got it off of our backs. So if everybody should work to earn what they have, that should include them also. So they push this meritocracy thing, yet there has been no meritocracy as far as they're concerned. I read something recently that says most of the money in the African American community continued to go into the hands of whites up until about 50, 60 years ago. Because again, 230 years, they took everything from us that we worked to produce. We were chattel property. So they took it from us and put it in their pockets. They worked us for free. And then the same thing happened during Jim Crow. Now, I know some of you are young and you don't know a thing about Jim Crow. I'm old enough to remember Jim Crow. I have vivid memories of Jim Crow. And there again, African American people were pretty much working to enrich white people. So in this country, there's never really been a time where white people have truly operated under meritocracy. So it's a sham. All right, now, believe it or not, those are 20 reasons why Donald Trump is one of the most anti-black politicians that we've seen in a long time. And the people around him, like Project 2025, MAGA, the GOP, they're right there with him. And they want to get back in office. All they want from you is your vote. That's all they want. They just want you to either vote for them, for Trump, or not to vote. Either way, that helps them get back in office so that they can implement more of what I just showed you. Don't let them get back in position to cause further harm to our community, because that is exactly what they will do. Don't let them do that. And don't listen to these people who say the Democratic Party has done nothing for us. They are lying. The Civil Rights Act was passed by Democrats. The Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, and all of these things are now being attacked by who? The people who opposed them in the first place. Donald Trump's crowd, the GOP. This is really simple stuff. If you have educated yourself, if you are informed, this is real simple. You would never vote for Donald Trump, and you would vote like crazy to keep him out of office if you just knew some things. And that's why I did this video, so you can know those things and work with me and others to keep Trump out of office. Because as sure as I sit here, they will implement a whole lot of those Project 2025 anti-black policies. And I'm not making that up. They have the mandate, the manual, which is over 900 pages of all the things they want to do, which are horrible for black people. They have that right on their website. I'm not making it up. This is really serious. Very, very serious. So, you black Trump supporters, please think about what you're doing and think about what I just said. And thank you for listening to this video. I am Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers, and I appreciate you watching, and I hope something I said has impacted you. Until the next time, peace.